There it is. Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 104 of the Self-Publishing Roundtable, the podcast for indie authors by indie authors, where we discuss today's topics and issues that matter to the business of the self-published author. I am your moderator, Wade Finnegan, and my co-panelists are Xavier Granville.
Hello, internets.
And pinch hitting for Michelle Reed tonight is one Mr. Liam Kingman. Yes, that's really him.
Got it. That is his face.
That is his actual face. That is not a false. That's not a fake Liam.
It's not a stand-in.
Yeah, and we are joined tonight by Armand. Hopefully, I don't butcher this too much. Rosamilia. Did I say that?
Rosamilia.
Nice. Okay.
Close.
Close. That was close. Yeah, I'll take it for me. So Armand is a very, very accomplished author. If you've ever clicked on his Amazon page, you might be a little overwhelmed. He has over 100 books, compilations, things like that. And he's kind of eclectic, even though you won't necessarily find everything under his name, Armand. He does write in lots of different genres and things, which we'll get into tonight. He's probably most famous to our listeners and to us as a horror writer, and so we'll definitely talk a little bit about that. But he also does some cool things like Authors for Support Our Troops. He also does some really cool stuff with Horrors Writer Association. Also does a lot of Hollywood stuff, which I'm really fascinated about. So there's just a ton of things that we could talk to about Armand tonight. So Armand, thanks for coming on. I do really appreciate it, as I'm sure as everybody else does. I know it's kind of a little last minute, and we appreciate you taking the time out and coming on our show.
No, it's great. It's great. I've actually listened to probably your last dozen shows or so, and Robert Chaschute is the one who got me into it. I guess with his first appearance when he was on, he told me about you guys, so
nice.
That's when I jumped in.
Well, thank you, Robert, for giving us a nice. He's probably listening live tonight too. So
no, actually, Robert is on vacation in the Windy City, Chicago, and that is why he is not here tonight. Originally, I had reached out to him, and Armand came heavily recommended since Robert is in the Windy City.
So he snuck into my country, and now I get to take his place. That's good.
yeah,
exactly.
I like that. Take his place. If you don't see Robert again, don't go looking to Armand. Nothing happening there.
Right. I once wrote a blog post for his thing that said, basically, I don't know, it was like this whole big long thing, but the one thing he took out of it was that basically I said I hated Canada. So that's our running joke.
Uh-oh.
I always say I don't hate Canada, and I know I'm going to upset a couple people. I am not a Rush fan. And
oh no!
Yes.
Oh no!
Maybe we won't get along.
I'm one of the 10 people in the world who doesn't think they're gods. But sorry.
Oh yeah, I could appreciate that, but in the same page, I guess I could say that I'm not a Slayer fan, but I could see why people think that they're gods as well, but I can't listen to it.
So there you go.
There you go.
No wars, though, right? No wars.
No, because Slayer fans would always win.
Well, yeah.
So, well, we do have a few live viewers tonight, and we do appreciate our live audience. As always, please leave us some questions, comments. We'll try our best to get them on the air. I see that Kate Morgan's in the house. MGon's in the house. Oh, look, last week's guest is in the house, John Monk. We're just doing it. That was awesome. So, you guys definitely... leave us some comments, some questions, things like that, and we'll try our best to get them on. And, of course, when the show's over, go give us a nice review over on iTunes and where else you find us. So, all right. So, Armand, gosh, you got so much to go, so I'll let you kind of focus in on what you want. But since probably quite a few of our viewers are not necessarily familiar with your work, can you just give us a little bit of background about your writing journey and how you kind of got to this spot?
Well, I guess I'm most known, or whatever that saying is, for my Dying Days zombie series. And book 5 came out, although if you count all the shoot-offs and everything, there's about a dozen books out. And that was the one series that really helped me, and it's still about 90% of my sales. I mean, you can look on Amazon and say there's 150 releases, and probably about 15 to 20 of those are dying days, but that's still the bulk of the sales for me. The self-published stuff, or even the stuff that I'm putting out with other companies too. I try to mix it. I try to do some small press. I work with Angelic Knight Press and Ragnarok. Hazardous Press is another good one, and that's what it is. And then just for me, I've been writing full time for about 4 years, so it's just the volume. In the beginning, that was my thing. That was the I guess from reading like J.A. Conrath's blog, that was a big one. That it seemed like every time he put out a new book, his backlist was selling. So I said to myself, well, I need a backlist. I need all these releases, and let me put them out, and let's see what happens. And I got in right when the whole boom started and everything else. We were all going to be millionaires. And I remember talking to him, and he had done that Christmas, the 3 weeks in December, he had done like whatever it was, like ridiculous, like $100,000 in sales or something. And so I'm like, all right, I'll be there too. This will be great. Well, I'm still not there. If I was, I'd have a stand-in doing this podcast, and I'd be on my yacht right now. So
a doppelganger.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'd hire a skinnier, better-looking guy to sit in for me.
Oh, that's great. But obviously, finding some success. 4 years running as just an author is pretty cool. So
yeah, I'm very, very blessed and living the dream. I'm able to do this for a living. My wife laughs at me because I'll go 2-3 days that I'll basically get out of bed in my sweatpants, and I'll make coffee and walk into my office and close the door. And she comes home from work at 6 o'clock and knocks on the door. And 2 or 3 days of that, she says, "Go take a shower, or at least change your sweatpants or something, or come spend time with the family already." So you lose yourself as a writer. She'll say, "What did you eat for lunch today?" And I say, "Why? What time is it?" And she's like, "It's dinner time." "Oh, I guess I ate nothing." It's just that back and forth trip to make 2-3 pots of coffee a day. That's pretty much. But yet I'm still 300 and something pounds. I don't get it.
Yeah, that's not fair. That's not right. No calories. Coffee's got low calories too.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. I don't get it.
That's cruel. All right, so I'll start off then. So, talk a little bit about your writing process. I think a lot of our listeners would be interested how you get so much work done, and what sort of things you do to prepare yourself to be able to jump from different type genres and things like that.
Well, there's what I call was I just got married in April, and we had dated for about 2 years, so I call it my pre-Shelley writing and then my post-Shelley writing. And I'm very creative, which means I am all over the place. And when her and I met, and I was working on a couple different projects, and all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, I better finish this. I got like 10,000 words to write in 2 days." And she's like, "Well, how long have you had this?" And I'm like, "Oh, like 2 months, but I just forgot about it." So I was just all over. So she's like, and she's a commercial property manager. So she was like, "Don't you use spreadsheets and Excel?" And I was like, "I don't even know what any of that is." So she set up, literally from like 2 years ago on October 1st, a spreadsheet for me. And basically my goal is 10,000 words a week. So at the end of the year, 520,000 words. That's my goal for the year to write. And I keep track of it every day, and that's a real good motivation to see what my weekly average is, what my monthly average is, what my yearly average is, and it really keeps me going. So it's like if I have to do 1,429 words, I think is the average I need to do every day if I write every day. And a lot of times I will take days off. I've done a lot of conventions. We had a week honeymoon on a cruise, and I didn't write at all. There was no phone, nothing. That killed me.
Oh no!
Yeah. So in my mind, I have to catch up those days. But I try to do 2,000 words a day. If I can do, the goal is 2,000 words a day for 5 days, and then get a couple of days off. I think at last count, I think today was like day 87 in a row that I wrote. I mean, I even went to Scares That Care weekend, and I even wrote. I found time, even if it was like a couple hundred words, I just found time to write during that weekend because I have contracts right now, and I have things that need to be done.
Wow. Nice. So organization, probably one of the biggest things there I see, and then just make
Plus,
yourself.
I work on, like, my board right now. There's 7 different projects up there, you know, and I write every day on. I'll write on something, and some days I do 500 words to get to the next. You know, I mark off every 500 words on my board to show my progress right in front of me. So my goal sometimes is let me get 500 words of this story done, and then I'll do 500 of the next, and then 500, and all of a sudden that's 5 stories. I've done 2,500 words for the day.
Oh, interesting. So you don't find it difficult to switch gears like that when you're?
I get bored quickly when I have to write one story, when I have to write one thing. I can keep all of it in my head. I'm a pantser. My outline is pretty much like, you know, chapter 3, he kills somebody. Chapter 4, she gets naked. I mean, those are my chapters. I mean, it's one line to say, okay, who's the character in this and what are they doing, and then it just progresses. And I only do 2 or 3 chapters ahead because I don't like I don't like to know what's happening next. Now, when I do other projects where there's like I do book adaptations for a Hollywood company, and they basically, I'll get on a conference call and they will talk through the whole story, and I'll ask questions and I'll make notes, and then I take those notes and I dump it in, and that's basically my outline, and then I say, okay, we get 10 chapters, 20 chapters, 30 chapters, whatever it is, and I'll break it down that way.
Oh, okay. And do you find either one, like, do you like doing it both ways, or do you find yourself being more a quicker writer with one format versus another?
I am definitely a pantser. You know, they've given me here's the screenplay, and you basically adapt it, and that's like probably the toughest for me, because you still got to get into the characters' heads and everything. Or here, watch the movie, and here's the daily. One of them I did. They literally were sending me the dailies and saying, okay, from the outline because I had to give them an outline based on talking. So they'll go, okay, this is probably like chapter 16 that we're giving you, you know, the same scene 12 times, and then you have to write that. That was really tough. Then this big jumble, and then you have to go put it all together at the end and almost rewrite the whole thing. And a lot of those are 40,000 word novellas that they want me to write, and I have 21 days to write them. So you're doing 2,000 words a day, and then trying to do my own stuff on top of that. It's a challenge, but it pays very well, and it pays up front, and that pays all the bills. So that let me go on a honeymoon and get married and go on. I think I did 5 conventions this year.
So well worth it.
Yeah.
Well worth it.
Definitely.
Xavier, I'll let you fire a question.
Sure. So you have a lot of different genres as far as what you've been able to put out, and on top of the multitude of different crossing between the different horror genres, you also have horror mixed with erotica, but you also have cozy beach reads, and you have nonfiction, and I guess as far as like getting back to what Wade had said about, like, you know, switching the gears and stuff like that, how do you maintain each story and keeping with each genre, and I guess what's next? Like, are you constantly looking for different ways that you can cross these genres or find different genres to play with, or is it just a question of what is exciting you at the time, kind of a thing?
Well, I think it's a lot of it is the challenge. I've ghostwritten some stuff. One of the worst, and I say the worst because it was the most challenging, I wrote a military romance that is actually a pretty big seller on Amazon. And it was really written by, it was about a 15,000 word story written by a first-time writer, and her husband is a director in Hollywood. And she wrote this book, and she said, oh, let's publish this. And they gave it to the people that I work with, and they said, well, this is unprintable. But I know a guy, and if we pay him a bunch of money, he'll rewrite it for her. So they came to me and they said, "Would you?" And I said, "Sure." So I rewrote it, and it was pulling teeth. I mean, every day my wife was like, "Are you done with that? Because you're miserable." And it was because I'm not used to. I mean, it was a Navy wife with maybe a cheating husband who goes away on these secret missions, and it was that kind of thing. And I don't know. I've never been in the military. I've never been a woman, as far as I know. So and it was cool, but then I finished it. I sent it to them. They put it out, and then maybe 2 months later, I was like, let me look that up. And I had to figure out what the name of it was because it didn't even have a name on it. And when I figured it out, it was like 30-something 5-star reviews on it, and one of the reviews was obviously this woman was a Navy wife, living at this base because I was at that base, and on and on. I'm thinking, I did Google Earth and went around the base. That was my street names and what the barracks look like, that kind of thing. So I was like, that's pretty cool. All right, I'll take that.
Wow, that's crazy though. And to see that amount of, and I remember on a previous podcast, you talked about someone reaching out to you as far as connection with the beach reads that you do. Can you tell us a little bit about that series, the novellas
Yeah. Well, it's a Flagler Beach fiction series, and it started out. There's a place down here in Florida, basically between St. Augustine and Daytona Beach, called Palm Coast, and then the beach itself is Flagler Beach, and it's just this tiny little, sea community, and it's just awesome. And I would go there. I would drop my son off at high school every morning, and then I would go there from like 7 in the morning until like 2 in the afternoon, and I would write. And I wrote, I think I wrote like 2 Dying Days novels there, and they're both set right there in Flagler Beach and St. Augustine in the area. And what really triggered it off for me is the place was always busy, and food was always good, tons of coffee. The people that ran it, Mark and Tina, are still awesome. And there was this older couple, like in their 60s, sitting at the table next to me. And I started eavesdropping on him, and I realized that the woman was breaking up with him. And basically she was saying, one of your kids, stole a plate from my house or something, and I don't want your kids over. I'm not doing holidays with them anymore. And she was just being so nasty to him. And it was so funny that I realized, well, her kids, the guy's kids probably like my age, And he got up, he stood up, and he's just like, "Is that it?" And she's like, "Yeah, I don't want to see you anymore." But she's like, "Leave, you better leave the money." So he takes a 20 out and he puts it down and he just walks out. And she had the biggest smile on her face eating, and I'm like, what a bitch. I'm like, I'm going to kill her in a story. So I actually started writing that story out, and I'm like, you know what? This place has tons of this little town has tons of great characters like this. So I started writing it. So I'm actually doing the 7th and final book now. It'll be out by September. And what it is it's 10 short stories in like Kokomo's Cafe. I went to them. I said, can I write about this place but with fictional characters? And they said, sure. So each book is a day at an individual place in Flagler Beach, and they're all real businesses, and they're a lot of based on real people. So it goes like Friday to the following Thursday is the final book. And it's been great. I sell them down there. Most of the businesses sell them. I get people every time I go down there. Every couple of weeks, I'll go down there still and write, and people come up and they buy the books, and I sign them and take pictures and everything else. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Oh, what a great idea too! Way to capture your audience right there in the place.
Every time I've done a book signing down there, as I add the new place, I try to do a book signing there, and I usually get a ton of people. There's a comic book place that was the 5th book in the series, Nerds, Comics, and More, and they do free comic book day. So every year for the last 3 years, I've done a signing there. So this year was cool because I got to do that, and last year I got to do that book. Was like, I had 50 copies on the table, and they blew out because all the regular customers wanted to see, am I in this book kind of thing.
Very cool. Very coul.
Well, and I like how, because you're always hearing people say you write to your audience or write to market, but I think that those two examples that you brought up right there really illustrate to the further thing to write to community.
Right.
And immediate community is very important too.
I mean, it's the old, think global, think on a global scale, but then I go to local, and I hit it where a lot of I know I'm from Jersey originally. I've been down in Florida about 12 or 13 years, so especially a lot of my horror stuff is stuff from New Jersey, and then I got a lot of stuff that I've written in Florida as well. Those are the two main places that I've written a lot of my stories.
Nice. Liam, didn't want to put you on the spot, but also don't want to overlook you tonight. Just because you're
not a problem.
Because you're Michelle doesn't mean you don't get to talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Thank you for at least keeping your camera on.
Oh, I turned it off. No, yeah. Playing off the where you write in so many different genres, do you ever get ideas for stories and start into it and then kind of go, wow, this could be good as a horror story that I'm writing it, and then, oh, it'd be much better in this particular genre, and start taking a different direction?
Yeah, it's very hard when you're writing, like when I'm writing the Hollywood stuff, for instance, because there's a lot of rules that they give you as far as the story goes, and a lot of their stuff is zombie stuff. So I'll be writing, and I'll come up with a really good idea, and then I write it, and then I cut and paste, and I put it over here in the corner, and I'm like, no, this is going in Dying Days. This is my idea, and this is a good one here. When I'm just like writing, like I just say, let me write a story. Like I do, there's a site called Quarter Reads, and it's like stories under 2,000 words, and basically you buy them for a quarter. And I have about a dozen stories up on there. And those are just like the throwaway 1,500-word types of stories. And I'm like, let me write something different that's not zombies or not horror. And then probably about half of those end up being horror anyway, because it's just the way the story goes. I mean, it's I try not to fight it when I'm doing it. And a lot of that sometimes comes from I have a great character and I have an idea, but I really don't have a story. So I write the character into the story and see where the plot and the rest of the book actually goes, or the short story, or whatever. And again, it's because I'm not outlining. I'm just basically free writing something.
Right. Interesting.
Well, and I think that's something we need to hear about more often, because it's really easy to break down the outlining process. It's not easy to break down the pantsing process.
No.
It's true. Kind of piggybacking on that with your Hollywood stuff, Kate Morgan was asking, how'd you get into the adaptation work, or how'd you get into that Hollywood work?
Tell Kate Morgan a minor... No, just kidding. It worked out really good for me, because like about 4 years ago when I did retail management for 25 years and hated every minute of it, and I got laid off, and while I was looking for a job, I said I'm gonna write, or I'll kill myself. I mean, I was miserable. I was with somebody I was miserable with, and I pulled a lot of old stories and rewrote stuff, and I was just kind of playing with it. And then the ebooks and everything else took off, and I said, let me try this. And at that point, I had, I was writing a ton of stuff. So I think the first Dying Days was out. I did all the Metal Queens, the nonfiction interview books. I did like 3 or 4 of those in a row. And I guess at that point I didn't realize, hey, you should spread stuff out. I was just like, let me, back then I was like, if I can get something out within every 30 days, I won't be lost in the shuffle. That was my attitude. And it obviously it works. And a company, Hobbs End Publishing, had read a couple of my things, and they knew from following my blog and following me on Facebook that I wrote well and I wrote fast. And they just contacted me. They said, hey, we got this thing that's coming up, and would you be interested? And I was like, well, what are you talking? They're like, it's going to be like a dozen stories, about 10,000 words each, and you need to write them as if it's like a TV episode, basically. And so I was like, all right, yeah, I could do it. And then they told me the money, and I was like, holy crap, that'll pay my bills for like 6 months. So yeah, I'm in. and it ended up being Miami Spy Games. Zombie Russian Gun was the series, and I guess that's about 4 years ago now that came out, and that really got me. At the time, I think they had 5 or 6 authors that were writing stuff for them, and I think it's now down to 2. Because the other, it's a pace. They'll call me and they'll say, "All right, we need this, and it's 40,000 words, and we need it in 3 weeks." And I say, "Okay, well then here's my price," and the clock starts when my PayPal dings that you gave me this money, because it's all upfront money. There's no royalties, there's no back end, there's no tie-ins with the movies or anything. It's just here's a chunk of money, and write it, and I'm fine with that. I don't want to have to worry about all this other stuff. And I look at my royalties from other companies, and I say I'd rather have this big chunk of money, up front. I mean, to me that's the thing. It's the Howard Stern mentality. I want all my money up front. Don't worry about points on movies. Don't worry about all this other stuff. Give me the money right now.
Well, I think that really is the Hollywood mentality, and that's what experience that I've had in even just the creative process of the technical side of the industry. And if you look at the end of the credit for a film or something like that, the guy that does most of the work is very small on that credit list.
Oh yeah.
So and especially when it comes to the treatment and the things that you're going to be presenting to those that are contacting you, those types of things. It just shows you how much there's always going to be a demand for an idea, but no one's going to be paying you much for in the long term. It's just going to be upfront cash.
Right, and you know what? I'm fine with that. I don't ever pitch them ideas. They'll call me and they come up with. There's a couple books that are out that they haven't filmed the movies yet, but one of them is called Zombie Football, and the other one is called Football Espionage, and that's the idea. Basically, they say, I get on a conference call with a dozen people, and they go, "Okay, here's the pitch, zombie football," and then I laugh.
As one does.
Yeah, I'm like, seriously, and they're like, yeah. And then I will literally write this, and it's a lot of it is cliche, and a lot of it is a lot of tongue in cheek. I put in a lot of Easter eggs of my own. I put in names of people that I know or different things. I always try to add in the line, "Follow me if you want to live," and I've managed in about half of the books that they miss that line and they keep it in, which is kind of funny to me.
That's good. Hey, you guys hear? I hate to do the stuff on the things, but anybody hearing feedback?
Yeah, I'm hearing it.
Okay. And nobody's got a video open though, correct?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, that's just.
I've noticed that it's been cutting in and out just in the past couple seconds, so I don't know. It's weird.
It's weird. All right. Yeah, it is what it is.
Cursed you, Google.
Xavier, did you have a question coming up? I can't remember now. I got sidetracked with that.
I'm not sure how much of it you'd already answered, but there was a question from Kate Morgan on the site asking how you had got into the adaptation.
Yeah, that's what he kind of gave feedback on that. But how would you suggest author today maybe break into Hollywood writing if you have any insight?
That's I've been asked that, and that's for me that's tough because it was a different way. I mean, I know a couple of guys who got in, and they actually I know a guy who actually went out there and talked with people and pitched his things and did stuff like that. But for me, I just got lucky. It was just somebody liked my work, and a publisher needed books quick, and that's pretty much. And then when Hobbs End, when their deal basically fell through with that company after a couple of books, they wanted to keep me, and I went to Hobbs End and I said, "Hey, they're offering me a lot of money to keep doing this," and they were like, "Do it. That's between you guys, and knock yourself out." So, and I've been, like I said, about 4 years now. I'd probably do 6 or 7 books on average, but then I also do a lot of shorter stuff. They've come to me and said, "Hey, we'll give you X amount of dollars if you can give me a 750-word treatment for X, because we're going in, we're going to pitch to Stars or Miramax or somebody this coming week, and we need something. Here's the idea, and I say, okay, let's talk it through, and I'll take notes, and then, they had a pitch where they basically did something like that, and I was taking notes as we went along, and I said, all right, I'll email it to you in a little while, and it was like 20 minutes. I just wrote it up and added a little bit to, personality to each of the characters and threw in a couple of little twists and sent it out, and they were like, holy crap, this is great. Most of their stuff now coming out, they just signed a deal with Netflix. So I know one of the things that I finished with them was called Texas Zombie Wars, and the movie's done, and they actually have a comic book that they put out as well, and so that'll be on Netflix, I think, in October. But then everybody's like, oh, I can't wait to see it, to see your name up there. And I'm like, yeah, my name's not up there. I didn't have anything to do with the movie, Buy the book when the book comes out in October, buy the book if you want. Not like I'm going to make any more money off of it, but it is my writing, so buy it.
That's really cool.
It allows me to do the stuff that I want to do. It allows me to take the chances of writing horror erotica or contemporary fiction or other things. I mean, it's real nice to be able to get that money in and then say to my wife, here's a couple thousand or whatever comes in, and let's get ahead, or let's pay for another convention, or Christmas is coming, whatever, and to have that income, and we kind of use that as the steady income over, say, 2 or 3 months worth of bills and whatnot. So it allows me to relax a little bit and go, okay, now I can write what I want to write until I get another contract in.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that it comes back to like what you said at the beginning, where no matter what, you have to have like that back catalog of work, because no matter what, it's going to come through someone who's seen that you already have something out.
Right.
Doesn't matter how many things out, but it has to be at least one, and the more the merrier each time, no matter what.
Right.
And you're seeing various different successes in various different levels from the various different types of, I guess, reaction from all these different types of audiences that you've.
Right. Well, there's no. The fun is there's no one right answer. You can't go, okay, I went from point A to point B, and now I'm a millionaire, and I have X number of books out, and I've done this, and this. I mean, the fun of this is we all have our own path and journey to it. But what's fun for me is when, like I said, 90% of my sales is probably the Dying Day stuff, but it's fun when somebody goes, oh, I just read, Chelsea Avenue, your horror novel that Ragnarok put out, and what else do you have? And that's, to me, that's cool. You don't know where that reader is coming in with your stuff, where their starting point is. You can't say, okay, we'll go back to 2009 in my first book and then just read through. They're not going to do that. They're all over the place.
And especially in respect to how many genres you have, not everything's going to be someone's cup of tea, but right. It is good to provide that, and not to be biased in that sense, to at least put that effort out there to try to appeal to all markets.
Yeah, I mean, as long as I'm having fun writing it and I'm not forcing it, my own stuff, it's in my voice, it sounds good. It could be anything. It could be a thriller, it could be erotica, whatever, but it's still my style. I'm hoping that the readers will like that. And I do have some people that will read pretty much everything I put out, which is also no matter what I say, well, I'm doing a horror erotica short story called Necromance series for Hazardous Press, and people are like, oh, I love your horror stuff, and I say, well, it's like paranormal stuff, but it's erotica. I mean, she's getting laid in this story at some point, and but they like it. I mean, a couple of them have said, I love the story. I kind of blow through that 1,500 words or so of erotica or the sexual stuff, because I still enjoy. There's still a story there. one of the stories I actually wrote, and I realized, oh my God, I didn't even have any sex in this story. Let me go back and add a sex scene because,
The audience.
Yeah, because that's what the audience is looking for.
Yeah, I remember one of the main comments that I got from one of my best friends who read my first book, Dinosaur Noir, was like, I love this book, but it needs a sex scene.
Gotta have it. Yeah. Going from that to a little bit, just talk a little bit about marketing, if you would. You say Dying Days is your 90% of your sales and stuff. What have you done anything in particular to help with your marketing or any marketing successes you could share?
Well, for me, it's all about it's two things. It's the brand that is me, which I think is important. It's and it's just being me, and you see way too many authors, especially new authors, who I'm a horror author, so I'm going to wear fangs and I'm going to have some stupid fake name, and they're not real. You meet them in person, and it's not that person. This is kind of me, and it's helped. I think it's definitely helped. And then the other part of it is I'm very big on helping other authors. When I got into this, I read Jay Conrad's blog every single day when he was putting out. But I also talked to Scott Nicholson, was a big author who answered every stupid question, every email. I didn't know him, he didn't know me, but he really answered a lot of questions. And I got in with a lot of authors who were also in my situation. They were just starting out, and we all kind of helped each other. And there was never there's too many authors that mentality is we're all the enemy and we're all taking sales. And I always say a reader doesn't read one book a year. They read two books a week. So we're all in this together. And every year I do the Summer of Zombie blog tour in June, and I do a Winter of Zombie blog tour in November. This past June I had 35 zombie authors, and we all promoted each other, and we did guest posts, and we did interviews, and we did teasers of our new books, and I was just one part of that 35. And it helps, and everybody at the end of the tour, the greatest thing for me is they go, holy shit, I got so many sales out of this thing, and I got so many new readers and stuff, and that's important. My blog, especially this month, is all guest posts, and it's not just horror authors, it's romance, it's anybody who's an author, who's indie, who wants to get a new audience. My Twitter following is huge, so anytime I post, one of those blogs, it goes out to 106,000 people. And that's all it is. It's just about helping other people, promoting. I'm a very big believer in karma.
Oh, it's nice. Way to give back. I think there was a couple of questions on the site. Let's see here. This is from John Monk. I love this question. So a question for Armand, the horror writer. Sleepless in Seattle or French Kiss with Meg Ryan?
I am John's a good guy. and a funny guy too, and I'll get him back. But I am actually. He listens to my podcast. He knows I am not a horror movie fan at all. Not since I was a little kid. I am more of a Jennifer Aniston romantic comedy guy.
Nice.
And it drives my wife. We were watching. I talked about this on my podcast. We were watching Pacific Rim, and at the scene when the guy and the girl are about to kiss, and my wife is sitting on the couch going, oh, come on, get past this, blow stuff up, and I'm like, shh, this is a good part,
This is crucial.
Yeah, this is gonna move the story along, The two of them are finally getting together, and she's like, oh my God, that's horrible, don't do that.
As character development, this is important.
Yes.
Nice. And I will say, Jennifer Aniston, she's hot. There's no doubt about it. She's hot.
I will watch anything that she does.
Kate Morgan's got another question. How did you go about getting your first reviews?
Well, here's the weird thing with me. I probably about a year and a half ago, and me and Robert Chazchuk talk about this all the time. I yell at him. About a year and a half ago, I stopped reading reviews. I will not read a review of any of my books if I can help it. I'm a firm believer that nothing good can come of it. And I put in so much energy trying to. I'm a big thing of the people who just yell, buy my book, drives me nuts. And I know because I've done it before, because that's how I used to do it. And I realized you piss off a lot of people, and it's not a long-term thing. And it was the same with, oh, you read my book? Review it. And then you bust a person's balls for the next 4 or 5 days until they actually review it, and then they give you, a 3-star review because basically you're being an ass to them. So I don't have a ton of reviews, as far as I know. I mean, everything has a handful of reviews, but I'm not that guy that has 150, 200 reviews on a book. Mark Tufo can put out a zombie Fallout book, and he's got like 300 and something reviews in like a month, and it's amazing. And he just does it. He doesn't ask for it or anything. It's just again, there's no secret formula to this.
Now, do you maintain like a mailing list that you use, or do you mainly use like that 106,000 feed?
It's mostly Facebook, and it's the Facebook, the website, and Twitter are the three main. Now I have a mailing list, which I think is about a dozen people that every now and then I put something out, or I'll give them like a teaser or something like that. But I really haven't used it that much. And again, it's I'm not really big and familiar with like using MailChimp and all that stuff. And I'm very comfortable. I'm an old man. I'm 45. I'm into that. I know Twitter and I know Facebook, and that's what I'm going to use. Now I'm on Tumblr and all these other things that I have no idea that my 14-year-old daughter signs me up for and puts my name on it. But otherwise, I have no idea.
That's what 14-year-olds are good for.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Make me relevant. Can you do that? Can you do that, honey?
Yeah, I did a 6-week last month at the library. I did a teen writing workshop. So it was high school kids, but it ended up being like a dozen high school girls, like 14, 15, and 16. And when I said something about, I think I said something about Twitter, and they were like, "That's still around? We don't use that." And then they started naming all these things, and I'm like, "Whoa, let me write this down. I don't even know what you're talking about." They're all on Wattpad, and they're all on all these other things, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm lost, with all this stuff."
Yeah, good point. It's hard to keep up with all that stuff.
I think if you for me, it was the find 2 or 3 that I'm good with, that I'm comfortable with, and just really stick to those, and then become proficient at adding people and talking to people. And my wife laughs every time I post something on Facebook. She's like, "How do you get 400 or 500 people that comment or like just some of your stupid posts?" I think today I my stomach rumbled, and it rumbled, and I thought it was like signing into Skype. It made the noise of signing into the stupid noise Skype makes, and I posted that. And she sends me a text, and she's like, "Seriously, 300 people like that stupid thing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's..."
What? I know people.
Yeah, that's just fun.
Stupid is as stupid does. Hey, and by the way, I'm coming up on 45 here in a few months. You're not old. I just want to put that on the record.
That's good.
Yeah. Liam, you got a question you want to ask? Put you on the spot.
Oh, geez. Where you write in so many different genres, do you find yourself reading in a particular genre, or do you have like a particular genre that you use to go to for your reading?
I actually read nonfiction. The only time I read any fiction for probably the last year or so is when I'm blurbing something, and it's an interesting subject. Basically, somebody will pitch a really good story to me and say, "Hey, would you mind blurbing this?" And most of the time I'm like, I don't have time because I'm mostly writing. I read at night, and for me, it's turning it off. I used to do like 4 years ago, I used to do this. I won't read zombie books because I'm writing zombie stuff, and I don't want any to bleed in. And then, so I would read other stuff. But then once I started writing in 4 or 5 different genres in the same week, then I went back and I just started reading a lot of nonfiction stuff. And to me, that's cool. I mean, it's research. I mean, because I'll come up and I'll be doing a story and I'll be like, oh, I just read about whatever, Roddy Piper. I read his biography, so I'm gonna add something that I learned in some minor little detail I learned in that. I'm gonna put in this book.
Well, and didn't you say you went so far as to do a lot of personal research with professional wrestlers, like in your local area?
Yeah, actually, 2008, I believe, I wrote a nonfiction book about Southern Championship Wrestling down here in Orlando, Florida, and at that point, I think they had come up on they were coming up with on their 10-year anniversary, and I took my son, who was 9 at the time, or 10 or whatever, and we just looking for something to do on a Friday night, and we went to the matches, and I liked it, and I just started researching it and talking, and then I wrote a book about them. Same thing with like heavy metal. I wrote a series called Metal Queens, which was not only just the female musicians, but also the female fans or PR people or internet DJs or whatever, and I just interviewed a ton of people. So, there's a lot of things that I just like, entertainment stuff that I enjoy, that I'll read. I mean, I read stuff, and my wife laughs at me. She'll look over and like, what book do you have, or what are you reading on your Kindle? And it's usually something odd and weird. I'm a Dungeons and Dragons geek from way back, so like they had the 5-part history of Dungeons and Dragons, so I read that for like 2 weeks, and she was laughing at me.
Nice. Now, did you self-publish any of that nonfiction stuff, or did you go through a small press?
No, all of that was self-published.
It was.
Yeah, the wrestling one was self-published before when I was still working full time. So I had somebody that was before ebooks, really. So I had a woman who basically printed up copies in her garage, and I spent a crap load of money on that. But then what was cool is I got to bring them to the shows and sell them. They let me set up a table, and I got to sell the books, and I gave some of them to the wrestlers, and it's pretty cool. There's a guy, Brian Kelly, who he wrestled then as Michael Cade, and now he wrestles, or he's like an announcer for the WWE, Byron Saxton. And there's a couple of pictures online of him, and he actually has my book on the table in front of him, like during a live taping of a WWE event, which is pretty cool.
That's way cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right.
How did it take transition from a author that was working and then to become a full author? How long did it take to transition?
Well, I because I got laid off, I kind of got thrown into it, and it was a lot of panic mode, and of course then I look and I say, well, I was writing like 500 to 1,000 words a day. A lot of time, maybe I was writing like say 5,000 words a week or whatever on other stuff, and not really most of it just to sell, but just to write. Like I said, I was in a horrible relationship back then, so it was my escape to get away from her, was to open up the laptop and basically kill her in as many different ways as I could in my stories. So, you look and you go, okay, well, I can transition and I can write 500,000 words a week now because I have, 24 hours a day to write, and it doesn't work like that. I mean, there's still too many there's distractions and everything else, and then I didn't realize back then the marketing and the self-promotion and helping other authors and all this other stuff that comes in. So it was a big, from the beginning for me, it was a big learning curve, and I basically did everything wrong you possibly could do, and I learned everything the hard way, from doing my own covers at first to horrible formatting, uploading. I once uploaded the wrong book onto Smashwords, the wrong file. It was like an unedited version. I mean, just anything you could do wrong that first year, I pretty much did.
Best way to learn, right? By mistakes. Right?
Oh, yeah. You could tell me something 100 times, but I need to screw it up first before I learn it.
How about the editing process? You got a professional editor?
I have a very good very good woman, Jenny Adams, who pretty much edits all my stuff, even when it's stuff that she edits all the Hollywood stuff now too, which is good because she knows me and she knows my style. She's very big on. She'll say every time I use the word that, she says if it was a drinking game, I'd be drunk within 3 chapters because it's certain words I use way too much where consciously I don't know that I'm using them, and I'm very lucky because I write a pretty clean first draft. I mean that's pretty much going to be the story, except for going back and maybe some redundant words and stuff like that. But pretty much the plot is there, the characters are there, the dialogue is there. It's just really a matter of tightening it up, and basically her going back and then just asking a lot of questions, which is great because she'll say, "I know what you mean here. You know what you mean, but I read this as a reader who's never read your stuff anymore, and tell us what basically you got to tell a new reader what you're trying to convey here with an idea and stuff." So it really works out. We have a really good rapport back and forth.
Nice. Now,
Yeah.
how'd you find that editor?
Well, the funny part is my daughter and her daughter were best friends, and she was a college professor, and they tried to set us up on a date years ago, and we ended up becoming friends. And she had edited a lot of different things, so I gave her one of my stories that I knew was a mess, and she cleaned it up, she beat it up, and I said, "You want to do this kind of as a side thing?" And she's edited a bunch of other people's stuff now. She works for the state, so she makes great money, but she just enjoys doing it, and she loves reading my stuff. So it worked out very well, and again, she gets a nice chunk of money when I do the Hollywood books. So she's able to basically she landed that with them. So she's doing their other books as well now too, which is nice.
That's very cool. Very cool. Xavier, you were about to say something there.
Well, I was just going to say I definitely agree that no matter what, you should encourage a relationship with your editor. At least this should be someone that you can shoot the shit with because they're going to be spending long hours with your manuscript, and you want to be able to talk to them as someone who not only can you just converse with on a natural way and be friendly and joke around with, but also someone that you can know to be honest and critique and actually give that much of a shit like a real friend would. Not one of those friends that were like, "I love your book. It was really good."
Yeah. Well,
and they only read like maybe 2 pages.
And that's the problem with going through. I've gone through a ton of beta readers because I don't care. You don't say, "Hey, I loved your book" or "I loved your story." What does that do for me? Tell me what's bad with it, because I'd rather a beta reader tell me, "Hey, this character sucks" or "this plot sucks," rather than 500 readers who are going to pick up the book and never read anything of mine again. So I've gone through a ton of beta readers because of that, because I want you to be brutally honest. I want you to tell me what is crap about this story.
Good point. Yeah. Don't sugarcoat it. Not helping us by doing that.
No.
And I know I would regret it if I didn't bring it up, but on Simon's show, you had talked a little bit about how you've kind of incorporated erotica and horror into one kind of package, and being a fan of David Cronenberg and guys like David Lynch and stuff like that. I've always found that those kind of that suspenseful, strange, almost alien way of making either sexuality or fetishism into something that's horrifying. I think that's really interesting and in a way kind of it's not done very much. So I just kind of want to hear your 2 cents on that and what kind of success you might have seen crossing those genres.
Well, it's a little different for me. Like I have a pen name where I write just erotica. I mean, I write just smut, you know, and it's good. It's good money, but it's weird. Some of the dudes that send me pictures of their junk and stuff,
Of course.
thinking I'm a chick, which is really gross. And every now and then I'm like, I gotta walk away from this. But for my stuff, it is more of a horror, paranormal type of story. And then she's a very sexual lead character, and she's having sex with like demons and people to, you know, move her story along, kind of thing. It's not really like an Edward Lee or Wrath James White. I mean, you know, like I was telling you guys before we started, I've sat in on readings with them at conventions, and it makes you want to take a shower after, you know. And it's great. I mean, the stories are amazing, and it's creepy, and it's perverse. But I don't think I have that in me. I'm not really like a Bizarro kind of guy. I think that's probably the one thing that I think I would have trouble with, and if I tried to push that, I think it wouldn't ring true for you know what I could do. I don't think I'm at that level yet.
Yeah, I think no matter what, it's about finding what is scary to you, but also there is like a comfort level, like, because I don't think that, you know, as much as I hope that there wouldn't be a market for I don't know, heavy violence or otherwise heavy sexuality in the form of, like, you know, like rape or something like that. I'd hope there wouldn't be an audience for that. I would also hope that a lot of people would have an internal censor to be able to say, okay, no, this is too far.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's one thing I've always kind of respected about the erotica genre, as an, you know, someone who doesn't really pay any attention to the genre. I can say, like, you guys can stomach that. I can't.
Yeah, I mean it's tough, and I think the guys and women who do it, they do it well because they're comfortable with that. And I see a lot of people who say, "Oh, 50 Shades was the big thing, so let me write something like that," and they've never written stuff like that, and it's horrible. You know, I would never write stuff like that because I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not a reader of it. That's not my lifestyle. So it would be very tough for me to go into that. And luckily, I've never had to write any of that stuff. Now I know a guy who does ghostwriting, and he makes the bulk of his money doing that, and he writes a ton of bondage stories and different things out there. And obviously, to meet him, him and his wife are not into that stuff, but it's money, and he kind of feels sleazy afterwards writing it, but he's paying the rent with it. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, as writers, sometimes there's crap you have to write, pay the bills.
Yeah, but I think that's just it. It's funny, out of all the genres where, you know, where you kind of have to have that grit your teeth and bear it. It's erotica of all, you know, and I just find that fascinating. Where, you know, it's almost like you know, being in the sex industry in general. Yeah. Like, you know, you come home from your hard day of work and you feel dirty.
No. I can write any over-the-top, brutal horror story. You know, I can. You know, I'm from Jersey, so I drop F-bombs like crazy, and I can write all that without a problem. But you know, the sex stuff, there's a line for me. You know, it almost becomes kind of hokey, where I just kind of pull myself away from it and go, okay, let me write this, you know, let me use the words you're supposed to use here, and you know, write this sex scene. Let me get through this sex scene, because then I want to get back to the plot of the story. I want to get back to the reason she's having this sex is because she has to kill this demon or whatever the hell's going on, you know. In one of the stories, somebody gets stabbed. There's having sex with a demon, and they both get stabbed through the back, and they both die. and a reader was like, "I can't believe you did that during sex," and I'm like, "Why? It's a horror story first, you know."
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, playing with the senses really makes it even that much more disturbing. I remember with like Videodrome or Existenz, like David Cronenberg, like they would have a scene where just like someone has like a neural implant of virtual reality, like in a lot of sci-fi, but it's the fact that it kind of looks like a vagina, and it has a lubricant, and there's all these implied things that, that's what really kind of ups the disturbance. And so if you have people having sex and then suddenly they're all dead, like that's just really playing off of the audience, and it works.
Oh yeah. Well, that hits you. I do more of. I always liked more of the psychological horror. The thriller, and I was never really a big on the serial killers and all that stuff. I mean, as a kid, Friday the 13th and Halloween and all that stuff. And Friday the 13th always taught you don't have premature sex and don't drink and don't do drugs and don't do, or somebody's going to come with a chainsaw and cut you into little pieces. I mean, that was how we all grew up. But
that's right. That was the message.
that was pretty much that was the message there. But I stopped liking that stuff in my teens. It just got boring, and I looked for something else. I looked for different when it comes to horror. I mean, hey, we're dudes, so we all watched porn, but I'm not into like the weird, creepy, weird shit. As far as I know, I'm not weird. But everybody always the running joke is always I always say, how do I get this midget porn on my computer?
Yeah, how'd that show up?
Yeah.
No algorithm there. What the hell?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like Austin Powers. That's not mine.
All right. Well, gosh, we burned up an hour already, so it's goodbye. Any questions, Liam or Xavier? Or I don't know if the website was updating for me either, Xavier. So if you can check real quick.
Patrick had asked David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar. Like there's any answer.
I am a David Lee Roth fan. It was not Van Halen with Tim here. I love Sammy Hagar as the solo stuff, but I was not a fan. I went and saw them back in the day, and I was not too happy. Although Eddie Van Halen seems like a total douche now, anyway. But
yeah, insane douche now. I couldn't really even get into the Hagar solo stuff. I think he always is backed by a great band.
Well, yeah. Well, some of the early Hagar stuff is like really good, though. I mean. Some of those albums you can go pretty deep on some really good songs, but the Van Halen stuff I did not like.
I just find he sounds like a chicken. It's my same complaint with AC/DC.
Yeah, well, Scott died, but David Lee Roth is the showman. I mean, not now. Now it's as bad now.
That was the package. If you're going to say who has a better vocal range and all that crap, yeah, Sammy kicks the shit out of him. But the package of David Lee Roth, the brand that is and always will be David Lee Roth. I mean, that's what sold me as a kid.
Right. Oh, you want to go to rock?
I thought you were talking about his literal package.
I knew you were going to go there, Xavier.
I just remember watching Labyrinth again recently and just seeing all these puppets and David Bowie in these tight jeans, and I'm like, okay, those puppets are literally eye level with that guy's dick. They are literally looking up and just seeing the Goblin King's pressed member against his jeans and be like, yes, master.
Yeah, I think you should stop watching that movie now. You've watched it way too many times, obviously.
Do not tell me to stop watching puppets.
Hey, some of us like midget porn, some of us like, puppet porn, whatever.
There you go.
Puppet porn. Now that would be the line. If that shows up on your browser's account, it is time to cancel your subscription.
Well, Armand, thank you so much for taking the time. It was really.
Hey, thanks for inviting me. It was cool.
Yeah, I love talking to you and chatting about things, and just you're an interesting guy. So
yeah, keep in touch. And again, if you guys have anything you want to put out there on Twitter or promote or whatever, I'm always out there to help.
Now, is your handle just at Armand Rosamilia, or how's it?
It's actually Twitter. It's Armand Author.
Armand Author. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
I
any
also
websites you want to direct us to, or?
Yeah, ArmandRosamilia.com, DyingDayZombie.com. I also do 2 different podcasts on Project iRadio, Armcast, Dead Sexy Horror Podcast, and then I co-host another one with Mark Tufo called Armand Tuf's Dead Time Podcast.
Nice. So those are great places to check him out, and everybody go out and do that. And I am definitely going to get on Twitter after I get done with our after party, and make sure I start following Armand on Twitter. So I use the Twitter a lot too. So
yeah, I'm a big fan.
It must be the age thing. So we're about the same age.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is about as technologically as we're going to get at this point.
So I guess you are familiar if you watched the show a little bit. We do have an after party, so if you would like to take a chance and talk to Armand a little bit, if he wants to stick around. I didn't ask him yet, because I'm not professional enough.
I'll stick around for a little bit, but I have to go to bed.
Yeah, you're in a lot of different time zones.
I got to actually get up early tomorrow. It's my wife's birthday on Saturday, and tomorrow night I'm taking her to St. Augustine. We're going to dinner on a pirate ship.
Nice.
That sounds awesome.
Nice.
So that's
A pirate
fun.
cruise.
Yeah.
All right, so get in quickly if you want to talk to Armand. But everybody, thank you for watching live. Thank you for your comments. Again, please take a moment to leave us a review on iTunes. Find us on Stitcher, all that sort of stuff. Share us around the internets if you would. We do appreciate you guys very, very much. I'll say a happy goodbye to Michelle. I didn't know if she'd get a chance to pop in tonight, but hopefully she'll be back next week. And yeah, Xavier, anything to add?
Thanks for coming in, Liam.
Yes, there.
Yeah, thanks
See,
for
I almost
having
forgot about Liam. See, you like Michelle.
Yeah. And yes, of course. Good night, internets.